learning the chelek of the Ramchal that speaks about the way the Chazal understand psukim in the Perush and the Beurim, and clarifying and explaining the meaning of the psukim. So not just in teaching the teachings of Musar or the teachings of Kabbalah, but rather interpretation of psukim. The commentary over here makes a point that it's interesting that the Ramchal only makes two categories of agadas. One is those that teach us, fundamentals, and the other one is that explains the psukim. But there are many agadas and midrashim that explain historically what was going on at that time, like what was going on with Lavan and Lot and so on, and so he says it must be that Ramchal understands that goes into the category of Perushei and the Perushei Psukim, that if he gives you the context of what was going on, so then that's the context with which to understand the Psukim, and not just for a historical knowledge. Okay, so let's start from there's three ways that Ramchal is explaining that Chazal explains Psukim, and let's start from Hamina Shlishi. Okay, and the first two ways, one is just the Pshat level, and then the second way was that there's Ramazim, and there's things that are hinted to in the Psukim that really don't necessarily fit into the context of the Psukim, and you can't learn the whole Parsha with that remez. Just they saw it in one or in a few words in a pasuk, but you can't go ahead and learn the whole Parsha in that light, because it's not the level of Pshat, it's just the level of remez. And in the commentary we saw that maybe when you get to the level of Kabbalah, then you could take it down to that level and say that it's not just one remez in this pasuk that refers to such and such idea, but you'll see how the whole that idea could string throughout the whole context of that parsha. But now we go to Hamin HaShlishi, and we're going to read it in a side in a second, but the basic idea is that when the Torah writes about something, let's say it's writing about tefillin or mezuzah or something the Torah is writing about, so within the words of the psukim is merumiz everything that's needed to know about that parsha. Could be that you have to be very great, maybe like the Vilna Gaon was known at the end of his life to learn straight from the Sefer Torah, and he was able to see all of the teachings of Torah Shebaal Peh that were hinted to in the Psukim and the Tagim, the crowns, and so on that are in the Psukim. But okay, so this is closely connected to the text because it is something that's relevant to the parsha, but at the same time it's not really on the pshat level. Okay, so let's see this inside. So Hamin HaShlishi. It's the third paragraph here on page Samach Vav. Okay, you have that page. Hamin Gimel Hu. She'ad Kibbul Zal, that Chazal also accepted in Messiah. She'abar Yisbarach Hichtiv V'Sifri HaKodesh. That Kodesh Baruch Hu wrote the Sfarim HaKadoshim B'derech She'tichlol Haggadah Hi Inyanim Rabim Amitiyim. That one mimer, one Haggadah, one story, one teaching, that it could include many truths inside of it. And Hashem was makif, means surrounded and encompassed with his wisdom, that embedded in this parsha all of the truths that are pertinent to that matter. And this is a point Ramchal is going to explain further, and like he says, that amitasam lo yeh b'derech echad, the truths will not be in the same vein, in the same way, but in many different ways. Okay, so he's going to give us some examples, and until we see the examples, it's I'll just say it's somewhat of a just very general here in terms of the rules that are being set forth and how to understand. But the Ramchal wants you to know that it's very important to realize that not everything that Chazal say or that the Psukim say is true in an absolute sense. It's true in a certain with a certain perspective, and different Chazalim could be understood from different perspectives, that they're all true, but not true from the same vantage point and regarding the same matter. He's going to give us some examples here. So it's just for still developing this idea. Because of Torah, b'derech v'oifen, shekidish shefarish b'chol havana sheyuchlu lisbal hamila sahin, Hashem wrote the Torah in such a way and in such a venue that if you explain those words in the Torah with any way that's possible to understand those words, al pi klalim amidas yeduos, according to set and given rules, yivayaru kol anyanim amidim sherata be'emes l'chol ba'gadahi. Then yivoaru will be clarified all of the matters that are true that Hashem wanted to include in that Haggadah. Shehem klal kol anyanim asher yesham makam mitzad chilek v'neisehu. And that includes everything that has relevance and that is involved in that matter. So, I think that's important to not just take the Ramchal's word for it, that he's saying that the Torah was written in such a way which is really all-encompassing. It's written that there's nothing left out. That if I write a book about something, and I'm going to write that I'm giving some tips on playing poker, I'm not going to be able to include everything that's involved in there. Maybe there's some tricks about poker or chess or whatever that I didn't include. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the deep wisdom of the Torah, included anything that's shayach, that's relevant to that nosei, to that matter, is included in there. And it comes through the perush of the psukim. Understanding the words on some perush, havana sheyuchlu lispal hamila sahin. But the important thing is that the Ramchal is going to go on to say that not every way that you could read this pasuk is true. And because you need klalim and midas yeduos. You need to use the ways that Chazal accepted to be able to interpret the psukim. V'nimtza she'inei hichtiv haksuvim kulam ba'ofen shekol ma sheyuchel liyos muvan me'amila sahin al pi haklam shezacharnu. Anything that's possible to understand from those words in the psukim, according to the rules that are given, amiti b'naisei, that will be true. Amnam, even though you know it's true, that doesn't mean that you're done learning about that matter. How could all these perushim that could all be darshaned through the process of kal v'chomer or hekish or smichos or inyanim, that the one pasuk is written next to another pasuk and so on, how are they all true? Not all of the truths are in on one side, meaning the same way of understanding. They are in different ways. And some of them can only be understood that only one aspect and one facet of what it's saying is true. Now he gives 3 examples. Let me use my sefer to help me out on these 3 examples. But for the basic translation, I think I could get it. Okay. Achad drachim. Right? Is that what we're up to? Right. No, we're up to mayhem. Okay. Mayhem. Okay. Can't find it right now. Let's just use the Hebrew. Mayhem outside dimyan. Mayhem outside telada and ledas mayhem. Mayhem outside hagmul. Let's go through each one. Okay. Mayhem outside dimyan. Dimyan means by way of comparison. Mayhem outside telada and ledas mayhem. That means by what is the outcome and mehem al tzad hagmul, in the way of what is a person's deserving based on what was going on. So, the last example he gives, the Ramchal explains. So we'll work backwards. We'll see the one that he explains. So he said that he's just giving some examples of where some pasuk or some chazal is not absolutely true, and it can't be understood that it's true in any which way, only bedrachim, b'tzadim shainim, and sometimes only b'bchina achas levad. So, for example, Atzad Gmul means in what is deserving based on a certain action or thought and an involvement. And this is the matter that it's called Male Olav HaKosov. The Torah considers it as if he had done such and such. Shenimtza Harbe, which is found in Divrayim, Shenimtza Harbe b'Divrayim Zal, which is found very often in Chazal's wording. Which means that it didn't really, what the literal reading of the pasuk didn't really happen literally. The way the Ramchal is saying, it happened that what the person did is considered as if he did that. Shari atzara schus v'hachayva hasachar ha'onesh yichashev l'pa'amim. So sometimes, says Ramchal, that in regards to zuchos or chayva, what's meritorious, or what carries with it a negative guilt, that's something the person did wrong, hasachar ha'onesh, or something that deserves reward or punishment, yichashev l'pa'amim, that could be considered at times hametzias keheder, v'heder kametzias. That which is metzias means really happened, keheder, like it didn't happen. V'heder, and that which isn't, kametzias, like it is, like it's real. How is that? So is this pretend land? What is this imaginary land? But he says that I gave an example last week with Reuven and Bilhah switching the beds of his father. That the Torah says that says by Yishkav, that it says about Reuven that he took his father's wife. And Chazal say, really, he didn't. He just got involved in an area of where his father's bed was that was starting up with that, which was a private area between his father and his father's wife. And Reuven, of course, did it with L'Shem Shemayim, sticking up for his mother, and so on. But on his level, doing what he did was considered as if he actually did that Avera. Okay, so that's an example of Male Olav HaKosov. The idea being that this isn't something that Chazal made up, that this tzaddik never really did it, or this Rasha really did this and this. This is a Messiah, that there's such a way to darshan that you could say it's true on a Male HaKosov level, but Chazal needed to know, and their wisdom, when to say which one. When to say it's true in this light, when it's true in that light. We're going to have more examples, and we'll bring it out. Also, something which is a little could be considered like a lot. Something that's a lot could be considered like a little. They said beferish the following: Ma achronim lai asu v'tala bahen l'shevach, kach rishonim lai asu v'tala bahen l'genai. What does that mean? Just like the achronim, the later generation, never really did what the pasuk says they did, and yet they got rewarded. We'll explain this in a second. So too, the earlier generation didn't really do what it says they did, and still, Tala B'hem L'Ganai, they got blamed and put down and got slack for that. So this is referring to a teaching that about Shlomo HaMelech, that it says about Shlomo HaMelech that he worshipped, that he built altars for Avodah Zarah. And really he didn't do that, but he didn't protest properly when his wives, who came from other nations, that they served idols and built such altars, and he didn't protest. So with the same way, now with that, it doesn't say clearly in the Psukim. We don't know necessarily. We know Shlomo HaMelech was a tzaddik, but here it's deriving that we shouldn't look at this as strange that it wrote that about Shlomo HaMelech and he really didn't do it, because you find later generations like Yoshiyahu HaMelech that the pasuk says something positive that he did, and it says that he destroyed the idols and destroyed the mizbachos, and really it wasn't him that did it. It was really done earlier, and he was in support of what had been done and is considered as if he did it. Okay, so that's an example of Ma'aleh Lav HaKasav. Now the other two, Mehem al Tzad Dimyon and Mehem al Tzad Telada and Eledes Mehem. So Dimyon means by way of comparison. So here he brings an example, an interesting example, not so easy to understand. I don't know if this is so easy to understand. But when Moshe Rabbeinu was davening, so we're trying to explain where we find, like interpreting of Psukim, that we're going to use al tzad dimya in a way of comparison. If you look in the Baal Turim, I think this is right to say that he's very big into this. That he'll say this same term, the same exact wording is found 2 places in the Torah. So now it's use the same words here, use the same words there. There's some similarity between them, and of course we have that. And when it comes to learning halachas, it's called the Gzeira Shava, and it's a Mesorah. You have to have halacha l'Moshe Misinai. But in terms of understanding the psukim, so sometimes you don't have halacha l'Moshe Misinai on that drasha. It's just what we call a Gilui Milsa. That if that's the words that the Torah used, so that's Megala, that's the way to understand it, because it wasn't just a coincidence that it used the same phrase here and the same phrase there, and that could be a comparison. So an example is that it says when Moshe Rabbeinu is davening for Klal Yisrael after the Chera Egel, it says Vayichal Moshe es Pnei Elokim. That's the way Moshe pleaded with Hashem, and the lashon Vayichal is an interesting lashon. It doesn't say this so much, I don't think, about Tefillah, Vayichal Moshe. Vav Yud Ches Lamed. Vayichal. So now, the Gemara in Brachos, on Daf Lamed Beis, darshans this pasuk, and it says that Vayichal Moshe davened until he was meichal the neder or the shvua of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like you find a lashon of when a person makes a neder, or and you could go to a chacham, and the chacham could be what's it called again? It could be mefer, and that's hafaras habal and hataras nedarim, and you find this lashon that to be Michael, that's used by Nedarim.
I think it says that Lo Yachal Es Devarav.
Lo Yachal Es Devarav.
Right, you can be.
Hu Ein Michael Acherim Michael. Okay, so you see this lashon, very good, Yashikar, where this lashon of being Michael, which literally means to perhaps violate or to go against the words, to undo the words that a person spoke. So you make a neder, you have to keep it. But somebody else steps in, they could step in and they could, the Torah gives license to a chacham in the proper circumstance. Perhaps sometimes you need 3, a bezdin, and you come and you have a heter, or you find a pesach or a charata, and with the proper way, you could take what was a commitment and what was a promise and you could annul that promise. And that's the annulment of vows that we have. It's not, maybe people think that that's what we're doing at the beginning of Yom Kippur, but really there it's for the future vows. That a person saying, if I make a vow in the future and I didn't remember that I said this, then my vow shouldn't be good. So a person's making a vow and he basically pre-programmed that it shouldn't be valid. Okay, doesn't work if he remembers that he said that and he's saying it anyway. So then it still works. His neder or his shvuah still helps. But this is what we do on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Many have a minute to do Hataras Nedarim. So anyway, that's the concept. So the same word Vayechal is the same word that we have by being Matir Neder, and the Lashon Vayechal being Lashon Mochel. And so the Rashba writes that this is coming to tell us that to understand what happened with Moshe as similar to the way that Hataras Nedarim is. The Rashba explains by way of analogy that through Hashem's love of Moshe and through his zchuyos, through his merit, the punishment was removed, similar to the annulment of a neder. So really, I guess the Rashba is saying that you can't understand it that Moshe was like the Chacham and the Bezdin for Hashem, and Hashem had made a shvuah to destroy the Jewish people, and now Moshe Rabbeinu is coming and annulling the vow of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That Moshe doesn't really have the power to do. So even though it's saying the Lashon Vayechal, Moshe, and it's the Lashon of being Meichel and Neder, but it doesn't really mean literally that Moshe undid the Neder of Hashem, but rather it's just a comparison. That the same way that something could be undone by a Hataras Nedarim, so too here it was through the tefillos of Moshe and the zchuyos, the Kadosh Baruch Hu's love for him, that Hashem said, I will overlook this shvuah as if it was never made in your merit. Okay, so that's a way of comparison that it's using. It's not really true to say that Moshe was meichel the neder of Hashem. It's just compared to like the inyan of being of Hataras Nedarim. Okay, let's go further. Vayesh b'dvarim ha'ila pratim rabim me'od. There are many details. Okay, we could just. He's saying that if you start getting involved in examples and in how to darshan the psukim, there are so many details. We can't combine. We can't make a what likbites? Yeah, I think here likbites means to gather. We can't gather them all together in one compendium. What you have to know is in any one of these ways you can understand what Chazal said or what the pasuk said, and it will be true. And in the other ways it won't be true. Now here's an abbreviation. It's a question how to read it, but Kimay shehu behechlet. Okay, you can't. It won't be emes the way it is in a definite way. That's one way to read it. In other words, it's not absolutely true, only with certain conditions. Therefore, the point is this: if you see a maimer that looks like it's not true, and it looks like it's not sensible, doesn't sit well with you, don't give up on it. Don't say, look, it's impossible. That can't be. This whole, if that's what they're saying, I have nothing to do with this. Or say, just write tzarchian. The person because if you will come to the wisdom and know in which way it is fitting, sheyuvan, that it's to be understood, tira amita v'timtza nachas. Then you'll see its truth, and then you'll find your mind will be settled on the matter. So sometimes a person, you'll find Svarim writing that they had a difficulty understanding something for many years, and after many years of sitting with a shverkeit, something what's pshat in this? They came up with an insight, with understanding of how this is true, why this is true, and in what way. One who knows the Ikari HaChachma Elikis, now he's going back to the teachings of the Kabbalah, right? When he says Elikis, he'll know all of the conditions and these matters with the right limitations. Okay. Okay, now here the RAMCHAL is wrapping it up. I'm still hoping that we're finished today. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to put a. I already prefaced for you. We can't say definitively that absolutely that whatever could be understood from the words of the Psukim or the Chazal, that it's true no matter what. It has to be expounded and understood in the right way that it was taught, that we were taught to do. But a person just opens up the Medrash or opens up the Pasuk and they say, oh, this is how I understand it with my own creative reasoning, it's not necessarily true. It's very easy to make a mistake in Midrash Ish. The person will darshan Mikra Echad, one pasuk, and he doesn't use the methodology that Chazal gave over. That which he learns out from that drasha, it could be that it's absolutely false. It could be that it's not even true, the whole idea that he's deriving from the pasuk. And even though he says, look, I see it in the pasuk. Here, don't you see it too? Look, you see in the pasuk. But it's not so, because if it's not, it could be a total falsehood that's being derived from the pasuk if it's not being done in the way that was handed over with the Masorah. Even if the grain of the fundamental that's being taught is true, maybe it has nothing to do with that pasuk. It could be it's kaizev. Kaizev means false, in relationship to that pasuk. Because the words in the pasuk aren't referring to that at all. Now, what RAMCHAL is going to say, based on this is how we have arguments in Chazal about interpretations of psukim. That one sage will say about the words of his friend, Shehem Tos, that he's wrong, that he made a mistake. And that is, according to that Chacham who is arguing, the one who's his counterpart made a mistake. In deriving this drasha according to the rules of how to darshan Haggadah, they had these rules that were famous to them. Even though when we look at the Gemara or the Machlokes, we don't see necessarily in the words of one what was wrong with the first one. Why is he saying the first one was incorrect in the way he darshaned it? They did hint to each other in the short way of speaking, included in their words, is hinted to what was the area that the first one was mistaken. Or sometimes if you they included in their short words an answer to the question that the other one asked on them. Everything according to the ways that were with them, which isn't famous to us. And not everyone in our generations knows these rules. Sometimes it's very hard for us to understand a certain chazal. Sometimes in the hanacha, in the premise that they're making, sometimes it's with what the question, the kasha, why is that such a difficulty? Sometimes we don't really get why the answer answers the question. One who does know these ways, In truth, Yimsa Kol Gala Lefanav Al Nachan. He will find everything revealed to him properly. Now, so in our day and age, it would be wise to use the commentaries and the Mefarshim who knew what they were doing and go in their footsteps of how to understand the Psukim and the Midrashim. Derech Mashal. We'll give an example of where you have a machlokas between the sages that revolves around a certain principle of what is the right methodology of darshaning. Derech Mashal. Shedar should be Meir al Pasuk. Lignusan Shal Yisrael. Rabbi Meir darshaned the Pasuk and he darshaned it Lignusan Shal Yisrael. Here it says the example is that it's talking about a Pasuk in Shir Hashirim and it's darshaning the pasuk that says Ad Shehamelech b'Mesibai, that while HaKadosh Baruch Hu was still the king was yet at his table, then this scent, this smell was given forth was given forth. So according to Rabbi Meir, he darshaned at L'Gnusan Shel Yisrael, which means that Klal Yisrael just got the Torah and they were still at Har Sinai, and they emitted a bad odor by being chayte with the Chen HaEgel. That's how Meir darshaned. So he said, look, that's what the pasuk is saying, that the Melech was b'Mesibai and still was yatsa, this nerd, this smell that came out, and it's saying even while they were still by the table of the king, already they sinned. And the other sages said to Rabbi Meir, Amrulai, Ein darshan Shir Hashirim Liganai, Ela L'Shevach. You don't darshan Shir Hashirim that it's saying a Ganai, something negative about Klal Yisrael, only for the praise. Now, how could they say that? That was something that they had received in their hands. So the person's going to take this pasuk and darshan it lignai. They're not understanding what the kavanah of the Ruach HaKodesh, what Hashem meant to teach in these psukim. So he brings here that Rabbi Yehuda, he darshan the pasuk that it means for the Shavach of Klal Yisrael. What's it saying? That while Hashem was still at his table in Shemayim, Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, let out this beautiful smell when they said Nasa v'nishma. So now, instead of looking at it, that what did Klal Yisrael do negative by Har Sinai, now he's saying that this scent went out from Klal Yisrael while they were still, there was a good scent that is talking about the Nasa v'nishma. V'chein, k'shadar should be Levi, Shavram Mata Atman Maho, that Avram didn't have to do a bris milah, because as soon as he, I guess, was ready to do the action, it happened. He found it like that on his own, as if like Hashem did it. He found himself mahu. So, Rabbi Brechia said, at that time, Akil Reb Abba Bar Kahana Reb Levi. Reb Abba Bar Kahana belittled Reb Levi, and he said to him that it's not true what you're saying. Why did he say that to him? And he says rather that Avram felt the pain so that Hashem would double his reward, and that's what the pasuk saying. This was again because of a principle that they possessed. Regarding the actions of the righteous, anything that can be expounded in a complementary fashion, l'shevach, you have the darshan at l'shevach. Rishoyim lehepech. When it comes to Rishoyim, it's the opposite. And shekachia Kabbalah, that's what they received, that Hashem taught when He gave the Torah, Shabbat, that this is the way He intended for the Torah to be understood. That when Hashem wrote these words, His intention was to hint to all of the details of the wickedness of the Rishayim, and to v'mevar, to elucidate all the components of their disgrace. And by the tzaddikim the opposite, lahalim, to kolma she'evshar shi'eh b'hem mignai, that the intent was to conceal anything that could be possibly disgraceful to them. And to elucidate everything that is complementary to them. So in other words, it's a fascinating thing, but you're not getting, when you're looking at the Torah, you're not looking at the story objectively. And why not? Because that's not the way the author wrote the book. He didn't write it with the understanding that you should read it objectively. So when it comes to the story about the tzaddik, the correct way that Hashem wanted the Torah to be understood was that you should look at it in a positive light. And you should find all the positive aspects and details of, let's say, Rivka in all the chasadim that she did with Eliezer. And then when it comes to Lavan or Esav or so on, then or in Bilam, we're not supposed to look at them and say, let's just look at it objectively. How bad was it? No, look at each nuance and say, look, he was really just giving him a hug because he wanted his money. He was trying to feel him to see if there was anything hidden inside of his pockets, right? And now, who says that objective? But the point is, it's true, because that's the way it was given over to Darshan. Me sheraitz lidrash drash amiti, one who wants to say a true drasha. You have to go with the intended way that's consistent with the intention of the kosev, of the author. Then you will arrive at what he really intended to be meant there. And that's obvious. And that it has to be, if you want to know what it really means, you have to understand the shita and the way that it was written. Okay, we're one more paragraph and then we're done. Okay. Besides the psukim in the Torah hinting at those matters which it says in the story, sometimes they hint at other matters, which are in the future or in the past. Therefore, Yefarshim, they will explain them, the sages will explain them, each one according to his way, according to the laws that were in their hands. Now, so there was some creativity here, because even once you have the laws with which to darshan, but what is it saying about the future? In what way is it comparing a certain episode in time to this? It doesn't say, and therefore there was some creative license for the Chazal to be able to darshan it. And sometimes somebody can make a mistake. Even from the greatest sages, they could make a mistake in the intended drasha. On this, they worked very hard and labored, those who organized the Talmud and the Medrash, that were noteworthy, highly regarded, and accepted chachamim in their generations. And they worked to sift everything through. They gathered all of the teachings, ushikolum, and they weighed them out. Each one balanced it, not just on their own, but with the whole bezdin, if you will, with the whole assembly of their friends, of their colleagues. And those teachings and those agadas and the drashim that they found that were fitting and were true. So then they went and they were misada them and they put them, included them. So they basically did a very thorough editing process. Me'ata, and now, so imagine, even from the Tanoim and Amaroim, they needed an editor. Okay, so even the greatest sage sometimes needs an editor, and here the editors were sometimes their own colleagues and peers that didn't accept this way of expounding. And it has become clear to us that if it went through this process of selection and filtering, so then anything that is found in that which we have in our hands in the midrashim of the Tanam and the Maroim, it all is true. Each one according to its way, but only shekulam tzarfu. Why? Because they all were purified b'kor mechkar hamisadrim, through the furnace of the questioning of those who arranged it, and they were found to be truthful. And on them, on those editors and those great sages, we rely. Each thing according to the way that is fitting for it in darshaning the pasuk. V'havein heitev, and understand that well. Bilu'u, blessed is Hashem forever. Amen and Amen, which means Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen v'Amen. Okay, so it gives us appreciation for the midrashim of Chazal and the Agaritas, and we should realize that it's very interesting. If Chazal could make mistakes in their drashos, then for sure we can. So I once had a machlokes with my brother-in-law, and it's probably
only one.
There's probably a different machlokes in regards to this, but he told me, I went over to Torah and basically I darshan the pasuk myself, and he said that wait a second, that's not our job. Our job is just see how the Chazal and the great Rishonim darshan the pasuk and try to understand what they're talking about. And I said, really? I don't think so. And I went and I asked a certain Rav of mine, and he said, no, as long as you're going in the footsteps of the earlier sages, you're not making up new fundamentals, you could do it. So, anyway, later I saw that Ar Chaim HaKadosh says that, but he was from the great Rishonim, so you don't know if you could still do it in your times. But it is interesting because we do find, like it's saying, that you don't know for sure if it's true, even from the times of Tanam and Maroim, other than that it went through this great editing process and was clarified and selected and purified, and then we know that every drasha that's within there is true. And even then, it's a great work to know sometimes how they saw it in the pasuk and in which way it's actually being compared, and so on. Okay.